Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and we're joined once again by Mark Gonzales over at First National Bullion. And in with the new boss, same as the old boss, as we see the pick for the next Fed chair come up right away. A lot of discussion at Jacksonhole in Wyoming recently, which of course is one of the biggest events of the year for globalist economists to come together and talk about what they're going to do to your wallet next. And this is out of Zero Hedge. Interviews to replace Fed chair to start after Labor Day, Besant says. Now, they said they've announced 11 very strong candidates, but the two that are most likely are a guy named Kevin Hassett and a guy named Kevin Warsh. CNBC reports Hassett likely to be Trump's pick for Fed chief, though Warsh is more qualified, CNBC's survey finds. But it's all the same. If you look at Kevin Hassett and you look at his background, he was an economic advisor for John McCain in the 2000 presidential primaries, then in 2004 for George W. Bush, and then in the 2008 campaign for McCain, and of course, good old Obama 2.0, Mitt Romney in the 2012 presidential campaign. He has been heavily involved in bringing in lockdowns back in 2020. Of course, was a major economic player in the Trump administration to push forward economic policies around COVID, as well as enforce the restrictions that we all grew to, well, not love, the opposite, hate, because we all had to watch everyone turn into a zombie in 2020. And of course, he is now, of course, the director of the National Economic Council under Trump. It's the same old establishment politics. He's a guy who pushed the Fed to print $3 trillion in 2020 alone, which is a big reason why you've seen that inflation on your grocery shelves. And the other guy is Kevin Warsh. Kevin Warsh being, of course, a guy who's heavily involved in the Group of 20 as well as a Group of 30, G20, G30, major players in bringing in the reset, working with the World Economic Forum and pushing globalist policies to bring in a global currency system that, yes, is indeed digital. So again, as I open it up saying, in with the new boss, same as the old boss, this is exactly what we're dealing with today. And of course, no Fed chair is going to change the economy. We are watching the guy who is unfortunately going to get the job of being the fall guy in the inevitable collapse of Western economies in general, but especially the U.S. dollar. And we're going to jump into this and much more today. But before we do, I urge people to get prepared today. Check that link in the description, firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/. There you can avoid the CBDC system, the global currency system, and stock up in a way that you will not be on your knees bowing to these globalist authoritarians, economic authoritarians. There you could buy physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium. You could hold it in your hands, put it in a vault, or put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system. As I've said so many times before in these videos, you could schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark Gonzales and a complimentary investors package. Just let him know in the comments of the forum that you found him at World Alternative Media, or WAM, WAM. Make sure to use the exact link that is in the description, because any other link will bring you to a different page. So make sure it's firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/. Now let's get into this, Mark. This is obviously people talking about, well, this is going to change the game. Trump is going to fix the economy. Trump does not have a say in what actually happens overall in the economy. He's a guy who kept Jerome Powell and Biden. Well, actually, he kept Janey Yellen initially from the Obama administration, kept Jerome Powell through to the Biden administration and back again. And of course, yes, they have fights, they have arguments. It does not change what happens overall to the economy. And now we have these new guys in that brought in the $3 trillion in 2020, and Trump loves them, praises them, says that they would make great new chairs over at the Federal Reserve, which should not even exist in the first place. Mark, go into your thoughts on the new boss in town and what this actually even means for people's banks and overall the main issue at hand here, which is that people are at risk of losing their money, not just to inflation, but to bank collapses and the cratering of the economy as it stands. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So inflation's a guarantee, whether it's Powell or someone else. I agree with you. Same as new boss, same as the old boss. I'm gonna have to check out that song again. But the point is, don't be fooled again. Nothing's going to change. Okay, so let's look at Hassett. You got $3 trillion plus, deep resume of being a company man, a yes man. He's a team player. We don't need a fucking team player. We need someone to shake the boat. But none of that's going to work. This is pretty scary to me. We know we got a 50 basis point cut coming in September. I think that's a for sure thing. If it's anything more than that, you're going to get a surprise to markets. Trump is not supposed to get rid of Powell before his end of the term of May of 26 and bring in someone else, but he may. Because we got a lot of things on the table that we've discussed before. One being the gold revision, which is now resurfacing. They're talking about revising gold to even out the balance sheet and reduce our GDP. And now what's on the table per a B of A report and some rumblings coming from the Fed is yield curve control. Mm-hmm. So any new Fed chairman is going to be appointed, and they're going to do exactly what Trump and what the government says because they're going to be happy to have the job. So both candidates, it doesn't matter if Walsh is more qualified or if Haskins more qualified. They're both yes men. They're both going to do exactly what they're told. So,
well, and by the way, it's not just taking away from that for a second, talking about yes men to Trump. I mean, who are they really yes men to? Because who is really going to be playing that global economic game? We have G20 and G30 as this Kevin Warsh guy is a major part of, a major player in, and has been involved in economic policies that have involved basically just pushing towards a global currency, as well as pushing the old style Keynesian economics that we've seen fail time and time again by design for the last 100 years. I mean, it's not like they're going to go suddenly anywhere close to Austrian economics here or something, or even laissez-faire. It looks to me like more of that socialist economic structure of centralization of everything, massive printing of currency. I mean, these guys, their whole career has pointed to that very point. I mean, what do you think at the end of the day is really the difference here when we're going from Volker, who, yeah, he had a deflationary period, but Volker to Alan Greenspan to Ben Bernanke to Janet Yellen to Powell and now these other guys? I mean, the Federal Reserve remains the private organization that continues to manipulate the currency and push people into poverty. What is a new head really going to change about that?
Absolutely nothing. It's just something nice to talk about to get everybody divided about where the current administration is or the current Fed chairman is versus what's coming in the door. Mm-hmm. Nothing's going to change. And I say Trump because, these rumblings are coming. You hear everything about Trump wanting Powell to lower interest rates and this bickering and this back and forth. Yes, there's obviously higher powers to be above Trump that rule a lot of things in the world. It's not just Trump. Trump has a boss too. He's just acting like he's on our side. So nothing's going to change with this. But just the fact that you compile everything that we've been discussing as far as 100 billion for a week, you got gold revision. Now you got yield curve control. Any massive reduction in interest rates is just going to set off an inflationary spiral like the likes that you've never seen. You thought 21 was bad, 22 was bad at 9%. Officially, Shadow Stats of John Williams was saying it was closer to 20. Right now, Shadow Stats is saying inflation is closer to 10. And I think everybody would agree with that if you recollect the last time you went to the store and pay attention the next time you go to the store, even though the official rate is much, much lower. If we drop rates back to zero, and I don't know if we'll go that far, but maybe you need that juice because the U.S. is in a lot of trouble and the dollar is on decline. Look at all the warning signs, the things that we're doing as a last measure of resort stopgap just to buy enough time to pay the interest on the debt and get us to a point in the future of this digital transfer to revalue the currency. I'm not thrilled with any of the choices, but I don't have a say in it. I just know what's coming. So I'm going to take the preparation for myself. I'm going to add to my precious metals pile. I would recommend everybody does the same.
Well, it's funny, Mark, because I did a video with a guy by the name of John Sneisen back in, I believe it was 2017, when there was talk about replacing Janey Yellen with Jerome Powell. I believe that was around 2017 or 2018. And I remember doing a video with him at the time, and we're talking about how there is going to be no difference. And a lot of people said at the time, wait a second, no, it's going to be great. Trump is going to get in and it's going to change the economy. And people look at the economy as if it's the markets and the markets as if it's the economy. And they don't look at the reality of the value of their currency based on just the amount that they're printing. And not to mention with these tariffs and everything right now, it's going to bring up prices among consumers. But a poor populace is a weak populace. And of course, what we saw happen was exactly as we had predicted at the time, was that Jerome Powell was an establishmentarianist, because of course he was. They're not going to put Dr. Ron Paul in at the head of the Federal Reserve, though that would be amazing. I'm sure he would sign its death warrant and close the doors forever if he was, but that's not going to happen. That's a lot of hopium. The reality is that we are, and I say this on his 90th birthday, by the way, and he's the guy who woke me up to this back in 2006, the problems with the Federal Reserve. no matter who is in, we're going to have the same problem. And we need to look at where they're directing their energy towards that global currency, CBDC, digital system, digital IDs. And the more that they're debanking people and the more that these banks are going bankrupt, the more they're going to bring in these things as a so-called safety net and then say that, hey, you're poor, you're broke, you don't have a job, you can get UBI, as Elon Musk says, universal basic income, just like the World Economic Forum wants you to. And you can use our currency and you will get credits on that currency. And eventually you will never have to work. You can own nothing, sit in your little cubed city with a bunch of other people that don't ever actually do anything and basically be replaced by machine. And that is a major area they're going in. And one of the ways that you fall prey to that is by being dependent on the bank, being dependent on the dollar, and having everything, all your eggs in one basket. Another reason why, Mark and I have been shouting from mountaintops for so long that people need to actually prepare themselves with wealth insurance. And that wealth insurance being, and again, not investment advice, this is about actually maintaining your wealth over a period of time, which, yes, it could go up when the dollar goes down, but the reality is over time, it's about saving the things that you've saved so long for the long term. And that's gold and silver, Mark. I mean, we've talked about this many times. And again, we have that link in the description, but why is it in the face of, no matter what happens with the Fed, that's neither here nor there, what is so important about having that wealth insurance in the face of these obvious calamities that we're facing down right now?
Well, very simply, let's put in further perspective, taking off what you said. A lot of people are saying, oh, Trump gets in, everything's going to change. Well, how happy are you now? Have you seen the results? No, you haven't, because he's a puppet. And we are going to a global monetary structure, which is the New World Order. And you've been hearing this from presidents as far as back as Ronald Reagan from when I was a kid. A new world order. So they're going to get that. And the new world order is going to be essentially structured. Money is going to go digital because you're not going to need the money, because your compliance is going to be on what is required of you. Because if you don't toe the line of what is required with you, you can't access your money. So you're going to need something outside of that banking system. You're going to need something that you can hold that preserve wealth, something that central banks have been buying, something that governments have been buying, something that has been cherished as the only marker of true value consistently, and still is for thousands and thousands of years. Yet before the US dollar, back in the late 1800s, it was the British pound that priced it. Before that, you had Italy, you had Spain, you had Portugal. Everybody had a shot. So we're going to lose the supremacy of the global reserve, which is the only reason that people have that fallacy of like, oh, Trump's getting and everything's going to be different, is because with the global reserve unit is you can export the inflation to manufacture and you get away with things that other countries can't do. You can run fast and loose with their money printing. Right. And that is absolutely, if you look at all the warning signs, it is coming to the end. So we're going into this digital age controlled not by one currency, but by a global force of the IMF and the World Bank, and it's going to be policed by the UN and WHO. So stay away from that. I can't imagine that sounds appealing to anybody watching this. So pick up the phone, call me, ask for Mark, fill out the information, make sure you put Wham in the description. We'll have a conversation. I think I talked to 3 people today that reached out to us already so far, and I enjoy these conversations. So get educated on what this actually means, gold and silver being the actual money. It's not a drill. It's time to get serious, and it's time to take some serious action.
Absolutely, Mark. And Mark has been doing this for a very long time and is very awake to what is happening in the world. And the complete opposite of that, we have these guys that they want to bring in, and it could be someone else. They have 11 picks, but these are the most likely. And the guys that want to continue on with the same system. And by the way, that means, especially with Basel III push through, we have them basically declaring gold as money, but at the same time, they're saying, and 63 central banks have signed on to this to bail in your accounts. They could just take the money out of your bank account and it's gone, as they say in South Park. This is why you guys need to go and check that link in the description. Get prepared, because this is coming and you do not want to be left behind in that digital structure, to be that technocracy that they've been building and planning for a long time. They're not going to give it up overnight. And in fact, no matter what, we're going to see the currency crater. What they replace it with, we know what they want. What you need to do is be ready to replace it before it collapses, so they don't pull the rug out from under you. So I urge people to check out firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/ has to be that exact link. Again, buy physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium. Keep it in a safe haven asset here. Again, you could put it in your hands, hold it in your hands, put it in a vault, put it in an IRA outside of that traditional IRA system that so many people are depending on. I urge people to be very careful with all that. Schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark Gonzales today, and a complimentary investors package that you'll get with that. Of course, as always, let him know in the comments when you sign up that you found him at World Alternative Media, or WAM, as he mentioned, WAM, and get prepared today. I wanted to quickly go over this story today with Mark because, of course, it's hitting the news. Lots of stuff coming out of Jacksonhole, which we'll talk about later on. I want to know exactly what's happening there before we go into every detail, and I want to read through some of the transcripts of it because I think it's going to be very important to the future of the monetary system in all the wrong ways. And of course, we've studied Jacksonhole for many years here at World Alternative Media. And of course, it usually, just like the World Economic Forum, just like Bilderberg, right after we see some crazy policies be made, and we need to be on the lookout for that, which we will be. So make sure to check that link in the description. And until next time, thanks as always for going into this, Mark. Always good to hear your insight into this. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and Mark Gonzales signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth. Be the change.